Evan never thought life could turn out this way. When he applied for a university dorm room, he expected to share the space with another human student, someone who liked video games, junk food, and late-night talks about nothing important. He imagined awkward introductions, shared chores, and maybe even a friendship that would last after graduation. But instead, the university paired him with Kryn. Kryn was not from Earth. Kryn was not even from the solar system. He was from a distant world, one of the first alien exchange students in human history. When Evan first saw him, he froze in the doorway, suitcase in hand, staring at the tall, silver-eyed figure sitting calmly on the bed. Kryn's skin shimmered faintly, almost as if a thin layer of moonlight was trapped beneath it. His voice when he greeted Evan was soft yet metallic, like a gentle song played on steel strings. At first, Evan had been terrified. He had seen videos about aliens on the news, but meeting one face-to-face was different. Living with one? That seemed impossible. What if Kryn didn't understand human manners? What if he ate strange food or released toxic air while he slept? What if his people thought humans were beneath them? But days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Slowly, Evan realized that Kryn was normal in his own way. He was polite, quiet, and surprisingly funny. He respected privacy, helped clean the room without being asked, and even tried human snacks. He disliked chips but loved chocolate bars. The two of them found balance. Kryn would stay up late reading data from his homeworld on a glowing device, while Evan would study for exams. Sometimes Kryn asked questions about Earth. Why humans shook hands, why they sang in groups, why they cried at movies. Evan would answer, and sometimes they would laugh together. A strange bond grew between them, one that crossed both species and stars. One cold evening in early winter, Kryn spoke while arranging his books. His voice was calm but carried a weight that made Evan look up. A guest from my world will visit us soon. She will stay for 1 week, she is very curious about humans. Evan blinked. A guest like another student? Kryn tilted his head. His silver eyes reflected the dim dorm light. Not a student, a seeker. Someone who wishes to learn and feel what humans are. She has never been close to one before. Evan let out a nervous laugh. Well, I hope she doesn't expect too much. We humans aren't that exciting. We mostly eat junk food and complain about homework. Kryn didn't laugh. He only gave one of his thoughtful nods, the kind that meant he had already considered something far deeper. She is not coming for food or homework. She is coming for you to show her what being human means. Evan's smile faded. Something about the way Kryn said it made his heart beat faster. He wasn't sure why. The day Sarai arrived, Evan tried to act casual, but inside he was nervous. He stood by the window, staring out at the parking lot where cars came and went. Would she look like Kryn? Would she be frightening? Would she even want to talk to a human like him? When the door opened, Evan's breath caught. Sarai stepped into the dorm like a beam of living starlight. She was smaller than Kryn, more delicate in her frame. Her skin glowed faintly, pale with soft hues that shifted like the surface of a calm ocean. Her eyes were large and silver, but unlike Kryn's steady gaze, hers carried a kind of wonder, as though everything around her was new and precious. She looked at Evan, and for a moment, time seemed to stop. Her eyes did not just glance, they studied, as if each detail of his face was worth remembering. Evan felt his chest tighten under that gaze. Kryn spoke, breaking the silence. Sarai, this is Evan. He is my roommate. Sarai tilted her head and smiled, or something close to a smile, though her people did it differently. A human, she whispered, her voice soft like flowing water. Finally. Evan swallowed and forced a polite grin. Hi, welcome. I guess this is your first time here? She nodded slowly. My first time with your kind. I have read data. I have studied images, but none of them breathe. None of them? Feel. The way she said feel sent a strange warmth down Evan's spine. He didn't know how to answer, so he just gestured awkwardly toward the couch. Well, make yourself at home, I guess. Sarai sat carefully, her movements elegant, almost musical. Her glowing skin gave the room a faint light as if someone had lit a candle. Evan sat across from her, heart racing without reason. At first, she asked small questions. Why do humans cover their bodies with cloth? Does it hide something? Why do you smile even when nothing changes in your body? Why does water fall from your eyes when you are sad? Evan answered clumsily. Clothes are, well, it's about comfort and modesty. Smiling is just a way to show happiness, crying. Crying is what happens when emotions are too heavy to stay inside. Sarai listened carefully, nodding each time, her silver eyes never leaving his face. To her, every word seemed like treasure. Evan had never felt so studied, so important, and so nervous all at once. By the end of the evening, when Kryn returned from his lecture, Evan realized something strange. He wasn't afraid of Sarai. He wasn't even just curious. He felt drawn to her, like her presence filled a quiet space inside him he hadn't noticed before. And when she looked at him, he thought, just for a moment, that maybe she felt the same. Sarai's arrival changed the atmosphere of the small dorm room. Before, it had always been quiet, filled with the soft rustle of pages from Evan's textbooks or the faint hum of Kryn's glowing device. Now, with Sarai sitting there, the air itself seemed alive, as if the room was breathing with them. Evan found himself staring too often. She was unlike anything he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered faintly, not in a blinding way, but in a gentle glow like moonlight falling on water. When she moved, her light shifted with her, like a soft aura that made the shadows in the room retreat. She noticed him looking. Instead of turning away shyly, she simply met his eyes and studied him back. Her silver gaze was so intense that Evan felt as though she could see not just his face, but every thought and feeling behind it. "Why do humans look away when they are seen?" she asked suddenly. Evan blinked, caught off guard. "'Cause it feels strange. Like we're too exposed. Like the other person might know what we're thinking." Sarai tilted her head, fascinated. "But is that not what you want? To be known?" Her question made his chest tighten. He had no answer. Most humans wanted to be known, yes, but it was also terrifying. To be fully seen meant to be vulnerable, and humans were always afraid of being hurt. Evan shifted uncomfortably, unable to explain all that in one simple reply. The next day, Kryn left for his usual morning class, leaving Evan alone with Sarai. She seemed restless, pacing around the small room, touching things carefully with her slender fingers. She picked up Evan's notebook and traced the lines of his messy handwriting. "These marks, they carry your thoughts," she said with quiet wonder. "Your inner world placed on thin sheets." "That is beautiful." Evan laughed softly. "It's just math notes. Nothing beautiful about it," but she shook her head. "Even so, it is you, and anything that carries you is worth more than it seems." Her words sank into him like warm sunlight on a cold morning. He had never thought of his scribbles as anything important. To him, they were just numbers and problems. But the way she looked at them, the way she looked at him, made him feel seen in a way no one had before. Over the next few days, Sarai's questions continued. They were simple yet deep in a way Evan wasn't used to. Why do humans laugh at pain sometimes? Why do they tell stories about sadness? Why do humans hold hands when they could simply walk beside each other? Why do humans eat together when they could survive eating alone? Every time she asked, Evan tried to explain. Sometimes he stumbled, sometimes he surprised himself with answers he didn't know he had, and each time Sarai's fascination only grew. But it wasn't just curiosity. There was warmth in her voice when she spoke to him, a softness in the way she leaned closer to listen. It wasn't the cold interest of a scientist. It was the attention of someone who wanted to understand him, not just his species. On the fourth evening, something happened that Evan would never forget. They were sitting on the floor, a bowl of popcorn between them. Sarai didn't eat much. Her body didn't need human food. But she liked the way popcorn smelled, so she sat beside him while he snacked. Out of nowhere, she asked, "Evan, what is love?" He choked on a piece of popcorn, coughing until his eyes watered. "Love, that's a huge question." Sarai tilted her head, waiting. Her glowing skin pulsed faintly, as if mirroring her curiosity. Evan rubbed the back of his neck nervously. "Well, love is when you care about someone more than yourself. When their happiness matters to you. When you feel connected to them like they're a part of you." Sarai's eyes shone as she whispered, "And humans choose this, even knowing it can hurt them?" "Yes," Evan said softly. "Even then, maybe because of that." She was silent for a long moment, staring at him as though memorizing his every word. Then, in a voice so quiet he almost missed it, she said, "I would like to understand this feeling." The way she said it made his heart skip. He looked away quickly, his cheeks warm, unsure if she meant what he thought she meant. Later that night, when Kryn returned, Sarai acted normal, asking him questions about his studies and his homeworld. But every now and then, her eyes drifted back to Evan, and each time he felt a weight settle in his chest. He lay awake in bed long after the lights went out, staring at the ceiling. His mind replayed her question again and again. What is love? She had asked it like a scientist, but also like a child, innocent, yearning, hungry for something she didn't yet understand. And Evan wasn't sure if he was ready to be the one to show her. But deep down, he already knew, whether he wanted it or not, something had begun between them. Something neither of them fully understood. The next morning, Evan woke up to find Sarai sitting quietly by the window watching the sunrise. The golden light touched her glowing skin, blending Earth's dawn with her alien shimmer, creating a beauty he could hardly describe. When she noticed he was awake, she smiled faintly. Your star rises. It warms everything. Do humans ever thank it for returning each day? Evan sat up, rubbing his eyes. Not really, we just take it for granted, I guess. Sarai shook her head softly. Strange. You are given gifts every day, and yet you forget they are gifts. Maybe that is why you need love, to remind you that nothing should be taken for granted. Evan's throat tightened. For someone who barely understood humans, she somehow understood more than most of them ever did. And in that moment, as the sun painted her face with fire and silver, Evan realized the truth. He wasn't just teaching her about humans. She was teaching him what it really meant to be one. The days passed, and Evan found himself thinking about Sarai even when she wasn't in the room. Every question she asked, every small tilt of her head, every glance from those silver eyes stayed with him long after. She was curious, yes, but it was more than that. Her curiosity wasn't cold like a scientist's. It was warm, almost tender, as though she wasn't just studying humans, she was studying him. Evan had lived 19 years as an ordinary student. Homework, cheap coffee, part-time work, and video games. Life had always felt small and predictable. But with Sarai around, even the smallest things like laughter, like the smell of popcorn, like the rising sun, suddenly felt like miracles. And maybe that was why his heart beat so fast that night when Kryn left for a late lecture, leaving him alone with her. The room was quiet except for the humming of the old heater. Evan sat on the couch with his laptop pretending to work, though his mind was far away. Sarai moved gracefully around the room, her glow dim but soft, like candlelight against the walls. After a while, she sat beside him, so close he could feel the warmth of her presence. Her voice was low, careful but heavy with something new. I have studied many things these days, she said, her silver gaze fixed on him. I have watched your smile. I have listened to your laugh. I have seen how your eyes shine when you speak. But there is one mystery I still do not understand. Evan's throat went dry. He closed his laptop slowly. What mystery? Sarai leaned in, her glow brushing against his skin. The room seemed to shrink around them. Her next words landed like a storm in his chest. Human mating. Evan froze. He had expected questions about food, about emotions, maybe even about love. But this his mind spun. Sarai, his voice was rough. That's not something simple. It's not just biology. For us, it's personal. It means closeness. It means trust. Her silver eyes searched his face. Then teach me. Show me what it means. Not as a study, as an experience. Evan's heart pounded so loudly he thought she could hear it. He tried to steady his breath. He didn't know if she understood what she was asking. Maybe to her it was just curiosity, like tasting a new food. But to him it was something sacred. I can't, he said softly, shaking his head. Not unless you truly want it. Not unless it means more to you than just learning. For a long moment Sarai was silent. Then her skin flickered faintly, glowing with a soft rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. On my world, bonds are formed in many ways. Some with words, some with time, some with closeness. I do not wish to test you, Evan. I wish to know you. His chest ached at her words. There was no coldness in her voice, no distance. She wasn't playing with him. She was reaching for something real. Still, Evan hesitated, his mind filled with doubts. What if Kryn found out and felt betrayed? What if Sarai only thought she wanted this but later regretted it? What if humans and her kind weren't even meant for something like this? But then she touched his hand. Her fingers were cool, soft, glowing faintly against his skin. The moment her hand rested in his doubts melted. Trust me, she whispered. Evan looked into her silver eyes, and for the first time he saw not an alien, not a visitor, but someone reaching across the stars for him. And in that moment he believed her. The silence stretched between them, heavy but beautiful. Evan slowly turned his hand, letting his fingers intertwine with hers. She gasped softly, as if the simple act of holding hands was more intimate than anything else she had ever known. "This is connection," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Yes," Evan replied gently. "That's where it starts." Sarai's glow pulsed brighter for a heartbeat, then softened again. She leaned closer, her forehead almost touching his. "Humans give pieces of themselves when they bond, don't they?" Evan nodded. "We do. Sometimes too much. But that's how we love. We risk it," her eyes shone. "Then risk me." The words shattered the last wall in his heart. Evan leaned forward slowly, afraid to move too quickly. Sarai mirrored him, her glowing skin brushing against his. Their foreheads touched, and for a moment he forgot how to breathe. It wasn't fire. It wasn't a rush of passion like the movies showed. It was gentler, deeper, like falling into starlight, like discovering something that had been waiting for them both all along. Sarai trembled softly, not in fear, but in wonder. "I can feel you," she whispered. "Not just your skin, something more. Is this what you mean by closeness?" Evan's throat tightened. He couldn't speak. He only nodded, closing his eyes, letting the moment carry him. Hours later, they were still sitting side by side, their hands linked, their foreheads occasionally touching as they whispered quietly to each other. They hadn't rushed, hadn't gone further than Sarai was ready for. Instead, they had moved slowly, carefully, savoring every small moment, every touch, every shared breath. Evan realized then that this was what it meant. Not just mating, not just bodies, it was trust. It was vulnerability. It was giving a piece of yourself and receiving a piece of someone else in return. And Sarai, with her glowing skin and silver eyes, understood it too. When Kryn finally returned later that night, neither of them spoke about what had happened. They simply shared a secret glance, a quiet smile. Something had changed forever, but it was theirs alone for now. Lying in bed later, Evan stared at the ceiling, his heart still racing. He knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning, and though he didn't know where it would lead, he knew one thing for certain. He was no longer just a human living with an alien roommate. He was a human who had opened his heart to the stars, and the stars had reached back. The next morning, Evan woke up with a heaviness in his chest he couldn't shake. His mind replayed the night before. The touch of Sarai's hand, the warmth of her presence, the glow of her skin brushing against his. It had been perfect, gentle like something out of a dream. But now, with the light of day, reality pressed down on him. He loved the idea of closeness with Sarai, but there was fear tangled in his heart. What if he misread her? What if she only saw him as a teacher, or an experiment? And what about Kryn? What would he think if he knew? Evan shifted uncomfortably, wondering if the bond they had formed was foolish or dangerous. Meanwhile, Sarai seemed calm, almost serene. But her silver eyes betrayed the questions swirling inside her. She observed Evan quietly as he moved around the small room, preparing breakfast, her gaze following him without judgment, only interest. Finally, she spoke. "Evan, why do you hesitate?" He froze. She had seen him even when he thought he was hiding. He set down the spoon he had been holding and took a deep breath. Because this isn't simple for humans. It's not just physical. It's trust and connection and heart. It's complicated." Sarai nodded slowly, but her eyes softened. "I am not afraid of complications. I wish to understand. I wish to feel. But what if it's wrong? What if you don't want it later?" Evan asked, his voice trembling slightly. "I don't want either of us to get hurt." Her fingers reached for his. The glow of her skin seemed to pulse with warmth. "I am not your experiment, Evan. I do not wish to test you. I wish only to experience, to know, to understand. If that frightens you, then we will wait. But if you trust me, then we can move together slowly." The weight in his chest began to shift. Slowly, hesitantly. Her words were not demanding. They were patient, filled with understanding. And yet, the thought of giving her a part of himself that he had never given anyone before was terrifying. Evan's mind raced all day. Every memory of Sarai, her questions, her gentle curiosity, her soft glow, haunted him. He found himself touching his own hands, imagining hers in his and feeling warmth spread through his chest. But fear was a stubborn companion. Could he let himself be vulnerable so completely? That evening, as the dorm room filled with the fading sunlight, He found Sarai sitting by the window, watching the colors change in the sky. She didn't look at him when he entered. She didn't need to. He could feel her presence, calm yet insistent, asking him without words to confront his fear. Finally, he sat beside her. The silence stretched, heavy with anticipation but also comforting. "I'm scared," he admitted softly, almost a whisper. "Scared that I'll hurt you, scared that I'll ruin everything." Sarai turned to him, her glow brighter now, her eyes shining with understanding. "Then let me share the fear with you. Let us face it together. You do not have to carry it alone." Evan's chest tightened. No one had ever spoken to him like this before. No one had ever seen him, truly seen him without judgment. Not friends, not family. And yet here was Sarai offering herself not as a conquest or a study, but as a partner in vulnerability. Over the next few hours, they talked. Really talked. Not just about mating, but about connection, about trust, about what it meant to be human, and what it meant to be someone from a faraway star trying to understand humans. Evan explained slowly the ways humans express love. Gestures, words, physical closeness. Sarai listened with rapt attention, occasionally asking questions, occasionally smiling softly at his nervous laughter. "This closeness you speak of," she said at one point, her voice barely audible. "It is not just desire. It is respect, yes? It is giving oneself and accepting another." "Yes," Evan whispered. "It's everything. If it's done without care, it's meaningless. But if it's done with heart, it can change everything. You become a part of each other, in a way words cannot describe." Sarai's hand found his again. This time, when she touched him, it was deliberate, not tentative. Her glow pressed against his skin softly, reassuringly. "Then I wish to become part of you, Evan. Not to hurt, not to test, but to know." The words hit him harder than he expected. Every fear, every doubt, every hesitation began to dissolve in the warmth of her presence. For the first time, he understood that closeness wasn't about rushing or forcing. It was about trust and patience and willingness from both sides. The night deepened around them. Evan felt his own resolve harden, not as a barrier, but as a shield to protect the bond he was about to give. He was ready now, not for something hurried or careless, but for something real, something shared. He leaned closer, careful not to overwhelm her. "We move slowly," he whispered. "Every touch, every breath, every moment. We take our time so we can feel it all. Are you ready?" Sarai nodded, her glow pulsing gently like a heartbeat that matched his own. "Yes, Evan, I am ready." And in that shared understanding, something shifted between them. Fear was still present, but it had become a companion, not a barrier. The struggle that had plagued Evan all day, the fear of mistakes, of misreading, of hurt, was no longer something to avoid. It was something to face together. Their fingers intertwined once more confidently this time, and the room seemed to shrink until it contained only them. Not human, not alien, but two beings learning the meaning of closeness for the very first time. It was tentative, it was fragile, it was breathtaking, and it was theirs. Hours later, as they lay side by side on the floor, heart still racing, Evan realized something he hadn't before. The struggle, the fear, the hesitation, it wasn't a sign of weakness. It was proof of care. It was proof that what they were about to share was worth protecting. And with Sarai by his side, he felt a courage that was new, yet entirely familiar. The courage to give a piece of himself to someone else, fully without reservation. And Sarai, with her quiet curiosity and shimmering skin, mirrored that courage perfectly, because in that moment, they both understood something essential. That closeness, real closeness, was not just about desire, or curiosity, or even love. It was about facing fear together, and letting the other person in. And for the first time, Evan knew that they were ready. The room was quiet, except for the soft hum of the heater. Evan and Sarai sat side by side on the floor, their hands gently intertwined, their hearts pounding in unison. The air was thick with unspoken anticipation, yet it was not tense, it was warm, alive, and full of possibility. Evan took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. He had never felt such a combination of fear and excitement before. His mind raced with thoughts of what this first step meant. It was not just touch, it was trust. It was vulnerability. It was giving a part of himself to someone who was not only alien but also completely new to human emotions. Sarai's silver eyes looked up at him, calm but shimmering with intensity. Are you afraid, Evan? She asked softly, her voice like a gentle stream flowing over smooth stones. Yes, he admitted, but not in a bad way. I'm afraid of making a mistake, of hurting you, or failing to show what this truly means. Her hand squeezed his. You cannot fail when your heart is honest. That is all that matters. Slowly, almost hesitantly, Evan lifted his hand to touch her face. Her skin shimmered softly under his fingers, cool and smooth, almost like silk with a faint warmth beneath. Sarai's eyes closed for a moment, a soft hum escaping her lips, and Evan felt a strange thrill at the reaction. This is closeness, he whispered. A touch, a shared moment. It is how humans begin to connect deeply. Sarai opened her eyes, and for the first time, Evan saw something he hadn't expected. Awe. She was not imitating humans. She was feeling the touch, letting it resonate in a way that was wholly new, wholly alive. He smiled softly, a mixture of nervousness and wonder. It's okay to be gentle, he added. We move slowly so we can feel every moment, every heartbeat, every small change. She nodded. I understand. I wish to feel it all. And so they moved slowly. Every brush of fingers was deliberate. Every shift of their bodies was careful, intentional, as though each moment was sacred. Evan traced the line of her jaw with a trembling hand, and Sarai leaned into the touch, her glow pulsing faintly like a soft heartbeat. This warmth, she whispered. I did not know such things could exist between beings. I thought connection was only logic, data, analysis. But it is something more. Something alive. Evan's heart ached with emotion. It is alive, he said softly. It is the part of us that makes humans human. It is why we risk, why we care, why we love. Her hand moved to his cheek, mirroring his own gesture. The warmth of her fingers against his skin sent shivers down his spine. He leaned forward slightly, careful, giving her every chance to pull away if she wished. But she didn't. Instead, she pressed her forehead to his, a gesture of trust and closeness. Hours seemed to pass in a blur of gentle movements and shared breath. Evan could feel the rhythm of Sarai's heartbeat beneath her glowing skin, and it synchronized with his own in a strange, beautiful harmony. Words became unnecessary. Their bodies spoke in silence, a brush of a hand, a shift closer, a soft inhale together. Sarai's voice broke the quiet. This closeness, it is not merely physical. It is connection, a bond. I feel your thoughts, your hesitation, your care. I feel your heart. Evan swallowed hard. That's exactly it. It's not just about touch. It's about trust and honesty, and knowing someone is with you completely. That's what it means for humans. That's what it feels like. Her eyes softened. Then I am honored to feel this with you. For the first time, Evan realized that the first touch, the first shared heartbeat, was not a beginning. It was a bridge between two worlds, two species, two hearts learning to understand each other. As the night grew deeper, their closeness evolved naturally. Evan moved his hand from her cheek to her shoulder, then gently down her arm. Sarai mirrored his movements, letting their touch guide them, teaching and learning simultaneously. Every contact was filled with care. Every glance a conversation, every breath a promise. This is more than I imagined, Sarai whispered. It is a wonder, a feeling I did not know existed. I feel part of you, Evan. His chest tightened. And I feel part of you, he admitted, his voice soft but certain. This is how humans give pieces of themselves. Not all at once, but moment by moment, touch by touch, heartbeat by heartbeat. Her hand pressed firmly against his. Then I will take these moments slowly. I wish to remember each one. Evan nodded. And I will too. I will never forget this. By the early hours of the morning, they were still side by side, hands intertwined, foreheads touching, breathing in sync. Evan could feel Sarai's calm pulse, her glow steady and soft against him. He had never experienced such intimacy before, not with anyone, and yet it was not frightening. It was grounding. It was real. This closeness, Sarai said quietly. It is not just about your body. It is about your mind, your heart. I can feel your care, your hesitation, your honesty. It is beautiful. Evan smiled, his own eyes moist. That's exactly what it is. Humans risk everything for this kind of closeness, and you made me feel it even more deeply by being here, by trusting me. Her glow flickered gently, almost shyly. Then I am grateful, and I will never forget this. Or you. They sat together in silence for a long time, hearts beating, breaths mingling, sharing a connection beyond words. It was the first touch. Yes, but it was also the first promise, a promise of trust, of care, of vulnerability shared between two beings from different worlds, learning what it truly meant to feel. And in that quiet, glowing dorm room, Evan realized something extraordinary. They had crossed a boundary not just of species but of hearts. They had taken the first step into something infinite, something alive, something that neither time nor distance could ever erase. The morning light crept softly into the dorm room, casting a warm glow over Evan and Sarai. They had spent the night close together, hands intertwined, foreheads touching, hearts beating in quiet harmony. Now, as the first sun rays lit the small space, a new kind of calm settled over them, a quiet that was different from fear or nervousness. It was peace, but also a deep understanding that something had changed forever. Evan sat on the edge of the bed, feeling the lingering warmth of Sarai's presence beside him. Her glow was dim now, soft and steady, as if it were breathing along with her. She turned toward him and smiled, a gentle curve of light on her delicate face. "You changed me," she whispered, her voice soft like wind through autumn leaves. "I thought I understood humans, but now I understand more. I feel more. My heart, it feels heavier, fuller." Evan's throat tightened. "That's what it's supposed to do," he said softly. "When humans share closeness, it's not just physical. It's emotional. It's trust. And it changes you forever for the better if it's real." Sarai tilted her head, her glowing skin pulsing lightly. "It is real," she said. "I have never felt something like this. Not with anyone. Not even on my world. You gave me this." Evan swallowed, words failing him for the first time in years. He had spent so long thinking of closeness as something distant, something almost untouchable. But now looking at her, he realized that the connection they had built, slow, careful, patient, was not just about desire. It was about understanding, about care, about hearts meeting across worlds. For a long while, they just sat there side by side. Words were unnecessary. Every glance, every slight touch of their fingers, every shared breath spoke louder than sentences could. It was as if the room itself had changed. No longer just a dorm room, but a space of intimacy. A small world shared by two beings, learning the language of connection. Sarai broke the silence softly. "I did not expect this," she admitted. "I thought human mating would be purely physical. A ritual, perhaps, or a way to experiment. But it is so much more. It is honesty, it is patience, it is feeling another being completely." Evan nodded. "That's exactly it. If you do it without care, it's meaningless. But if it's done with heart, with understanding, it becomes something you carry with you forever, something alive." She reached out, touching his cheek gently. "Then I will carry it. I will carry you with me." He felt a warmth spread through him he hadn't felt before. It was more than attraction, more than curiosity. It was belonging. It was being seen and accepted entirely, without fear, without judgment. And for the first time he understood what humans really meant when they said someone had changed their life. The day passed slowly. They moved together through small moments of ordinary life, making breakfast, sharing water, laughing quietly at small jokes. Yet even in the mundane, there was a lingering awareness of the closeness they had shared. Evan found himself watching her, noticing the way her glow shifted with every small emotion, the way her silver eyes reflected light differently depending on her mood. And she watched him in return, her gaze curious but soft, like a painter studying a canvas. But unlike a painter, she wasn't trying to capture him. She was experiencing him, learning him, feeling him. Every laugh, every frown, every movement was part of her understanding. At one point, she reached out and took his hand while he was adjusting his laptop. "Do you always live like this?" she asked quietly, brushing her thumb against his knuckles. "In such small routines while the heart waits for something it cannot name?" Evan chuckled softly, the sound a little sad, a little warm. "I guess so. I didn't notice it before. But maybe closeness is what makes even the ordinary extraordinary." Sarai nodded, her glow pulsing gently. "Then you showed me that, and I will never forget it." Evening came, and with it a quiet understanding that their shared experience had changed more than just the night before. There was no rush, no pressure, just the gentle realization that they had crossed a boundary, one of trust, vulnerability, and mutual respect. "I feel different," Evan admitted, sitting on the floor beside her. Not in my body. In my mind, in my heart. You made me see things I didn't notice before. You made me human in a new way. Her hand rested on his shoulder, gentle but firm. And you made me see what humans are capable of. Beyond logic, beyond study. You made me understand closeness, trust, and heart. I feel you in a way I never expected. Their eyes met. And in that gaze was a quiet promise. A promise that the bond they had formed would not be forgotten. Not by him, not by her. It was not fleeting. It was not temporary. It was alive, vibrant, and real. Later that night, they lay on the floor again, side by side. Evan's hand found hers naturally, instinctively. He traced the delicate line of her fingers, feeling warmth, softness, life. Sarai leaned against him, letting her head rest on his shoulder. The glow of her skin bathed them in soft light like a private sunrise. I thought I wanted only knowledge, she said quietly. But knowledge is not enough. Connection, understanding, heart, this is what matters. I have never felt so full, so alive. Evan closed his eyes, letting the words sink in. That's exactly it. You've experienced what humans hold most dear. Not just closeness, not just touch, but giving themselves fully, moment by moment, and receiving the same in return. Her hand pressed softly against his chest. Then I will keep this. I will carry it with me. You gave me more than knowledge. You gave me... you. Evan swallowed hard. The emotion was overwhelming, yet beautiful. For the first time, he felt the truth of what humans called love. Connection and trust not as abstract words, but as living, breathing reality. By the end of the night, as sleep gently approached, they lay there quietly, hands intertwined, hearts synchronized, glowing softly in the warmth of each other's presence. The world outside could wait. All that mattered was this shared heartbeat, this fragile, beautiful connection. And in that quiet dorm room, Evan understood something profound. Closeness. Real closeness was not just about the night before, or a first touch or curiosity. It was about trust, patience, care, and vulnerability. And Sarai, she had given him all of that as he had given her, in return. For the first time, he knew that humans could touch the stars, not with machines, but with hearts. The week passed faster than Evan could have imagined. Each day had been a journey of discovery. Questions, laughter, touches, silences filled with meaning, and the slow, careful building of trust. Sarai had not only learned about humans, but she had also taught Evan something profound about himself, about connection, about what it truly meant to be alive. Now, the day of her departure had arrived. The sunlight spilled into the dorm room, painting everything gold and soft. Evan felt a hollow ache in his chest as he watched her prepare to leave. She moved quietly, her silver glow dimmer than usual, as if she too felt the weight of parting. I wish, she began softly, turning toward him, that I could stay longer, that we could continue learning, growing, together. Evan swallowed, his throat tight. I wish that too, he admitted. But you have your world and I have mine, and this connection, we'll carry it with us no matter where we are. Sarai's eyes glistened, reflecting the golden sunlight. Carry it. In what way? She asked, almost afraid of the answer. Every memory, Evan said gently. Every heartbeat we shared, every touch, every quiet moment. We'll remember them. That's how humans carry what they love. Not in possession, but in their hearts. She nodded, taking a deep breath. Her glow pulsed softly like a heartbeat trying to match his own. Then I will carry you. They sat together for the last hour, hands intertwined, sharing small smiles, soft glances, and unspoken words. Neither wanted to speak too much, for words seemed insufficient. Instead, they simply existed together, letting the silence hold the weight of their feelings. Finally, Sarai rose to leave. She paused at the doorway, turning to look at Evan one last time. Her glow shone brighter, almost as if she was gathering all her feelings into a single radiant beam of light. Thank you, she whispered, for trust, for patience, for everything. I will never forget what we shared. You made me human in ways I could not have imagined. Evan's eyes stung with tears he tried to hold back. And you made me more than human. You showed me courage, honesty, closeness. You showed me what it truly means to connect. I'll never forget you either, Sarai. Her silver eyes held his, and for a moment time seemed to stop. The world outside faded, leaving only the two of them, suspended in a space that belonged to no one but them. Then, Slowly, she stepped out of the room. Evan stood by the door watching her go, feeling the ache of absence settle deep in his chest. Yet alongside that ache was a warmth, a certainty that the bond they had forged would endure, beyond